This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Coming to you live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. I'm Scott Seidenberg. It's Cashing Out here on VSiN, the sports betting network. The Indiana Pacers take a commanding 3-1 lead over the New York Knicks in the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals, and the Edmonton Oilers take a commanding 3-1 lead over the Dallas Stars in the NHL's Western Conference Finals. Plus, Major League Baseball late game still in action. Get you caught up on everything happening here in the world of your sports betting night. But let's get right into what we saw in Indiana with the Pacers defeating the Knicks and covering 130-121. The game flies over the total. And when I mean flies over the total, this got bet down to 219. By the time it tipped off, the Pacers were as high as 3.5-point favorites in the market. Indy jumps out, scoring 43 points in the first quarter. And you know what? The Knicks weren't bad either. The Knicks scored 35 points in that first quarter. It was back and forth. Both teams were hitting their shots, but it was the Pacers' ability to nail their threes that was the difference in the first quarter. They started out, it was 4 of 5, 5 of 6. All of a sudden, the Pacers team that couldn't hit a shot in game number 3 bounces back in game number 4, finishes 13 of 32 from three-point range. They shoot 51.1% from the field overall as they roll to a 130-121 win and cover over the Knicks. And in the fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson, who had 29 points in this game through 3 quarters, was held to just 2 points in the closing seconds, and that meaningless layup puts him over his point prop of 29.5. So I don't want to say I feel bad for anybody that lost the Jalen Brunson under 29.5 because he had 29 at the end of the third quarter. This was one of those, if you had lost the over 29.5 for Jalen Brunson, you'd be sitting here and I'd be saying, wow, that's a terrible beat. But he got you that basket in the closing seconds. But the Pacers do cover. And you think about that fourth quarter. Like, the Knicks did outscore the Pacers 30-28, but Indy did a much better job of making sure that they made shots. They didn't turn the basketball over too much. And when they did turn it over, they didn't allow the Knicks to capitalize. The biggest difference between the Knicks' ability to come back in game number 3 versus their ability to come back here, or their inability to come back here in game number 4, was you didn't have the emergence of Karl Anthony Towns going absolutely nuclear. You didn't have the Knicks with a defensive effort that they had in game number 3 when Jalen Brunson was off the floor. The Knicks reverted back to their pathetic defensive ways here late in this game. And I'm searching all night because I want to tweet out things, and I'm bothered by a lot of things that I see, but the Knicks defense was honestly pathetic. It really was. The Pacers, we know their ability, and everyone by now should know their ability to get out and run in transition. They are a team that thrives on fast break points. They had 50 fast break points in this game, but the Knicks, they played right with them, 44 fast break points. That's why this game flew over the total. Both these teams were playing at a heavy pace. The Knicks turned the ball over 17 times. Pacers got 20 points over those turnovers. And it was the Knicks' ability in game number 3 to slow the Pacers down, to force them to play a half-court game. That's how they were able to come back. But in this game here tonight, they let the Pacers run all over them. And the defense didn't show up. And when they did, or at least when they tried, there was a foul called on every possession. And honestly, I tweeted out that I was very upset about the refs. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Scott's On Air. It wasn't one-sided. I wasn't saying the Knicks are getting a terrible whistle. I thought both teams were honestly getting a terrible whistle. This was just a bad watch. The NBA, first and foremost, we love to bet on it. We love to watch it. We love to argue about it. But it's an entertainment product. That was not a fun watch for me during stretches of this game tonight, watching the whistle being called on tic-tac plays. It's the playoffs. You got to let these guys play basketball. But yet every time there was some marginal contact, we're getting a whistle here, a whistle there. The Knicks shot 39 free throws in this game. The Pacers shot 32. I don't want to see over 70 free throws in a game. I just don't. That's not entertaining basketball to me. I don't know. But we turn the page. We try and see what did we learn from this game that we can now push forward and take a look at game number 5 coming up on Thursday. First thing we can look at is the total. Game number 3, if we look at that total, it was 223.5. And that game winds up, going under with the 106-100. It was a very, very slow pace. As I mentioned, the Knicks' ability to slow down the Pacers, specifically in that second half. So that game goes under. This game tonight was actually bet down. And we saw the prototypical pros versus Joes action in the market where a lot of DraftKings, a lot of the books out there were promoting how many tickets and how many bets were being placed on the over. This percentage of handle, this percentage of bets, all on the over, Yet the total just kept getting pushed down, and pushed down. And here at Circa, it closed at 219. And it was over in the first quarter. Once you saw the pace in the first quarter and both teams making every shot they took, the over was dead. So how does the market adjust? Well, now we're back up a little bit. So the total for game number 5 is at 222.5. So not quite what it was for game number 3, kind of splitting the difference here between where we were in games 3 and game number 4. Game 1 at Madison Square Garden was 221.5. Game 2 at Madison Square Garden was 223.5, which is what the game number 3 was. So it was an increase after we saw a high-scoring game number 1. But this has been it's been a zigzag, right? I mean, very high-scoring game 1, okay scoring game number 2, pretty high-scoring still, 220, was it 223? Right around the total. Low-scoring game 3, high-scoring game 4. Do we go now a zigzag in a low-scoring game number 5? The spread on the game, with the Knicks having their season on the line, Knicks minus 4.5. And in game number 1, Knicks were minus 4.5. So it's interesting that the Knicks were a 4.5-point favorite in game number 1. And now in the desperation of desperation situational spots, season on the line, there's no adjustment of these teams? Or is this the market telling us that actually there has been an adjustment on these teams, and the Pacers are now significantly valued more, that they are better, and so the 4.5 actually includes the Knicks situational spot, but the Pacers have been elevated that much. Now, do we agree with the elevation? See, that's the question you have to ask yourself. And I say this all the time. If you guys watch me here on VSiN, you listen to shows, that you watch the shows, follow me on Twitter at ScottsOnAir, SCOTTSONAIR. Whenever you see a line, you have to ask yourself 2 questions. Do you understand it? And can you get behind it? And when I see 4.5, as I talk this out, as I think about it, I understand it. I understand why the Knicks are the same 4.5-point favorite as they were in game number 1. Because, as I mentioned, it seems to me like the market is now upgrading the Pacers. And so even given the situational spot for the Knicks are still the 4.5-point favorite like they were in game 1. Remember, in game number 2, the Knicks actually got pushed to a 5.5 to 6-point favorite. So think about that. In game number 1, the Knicks dominate the Pacers. and lose in historic fashion, blowing that late lead. So game number 2, naturally the market adjusts. Knicks then increase from a 4.5-point favorite to a 5.5-point favorite. And the Pacers win that game. Game then shifts to Indy for game number 3. Pacers are a 1.5-point favorite. So the market actually valuing the Knicks a little bit more. Knicks get the win. Pacers in the zigzag spot start out as 2.5-point favorites, close as 3.5-point favorites, and win and cover. So now, looking at the spread for game number 5, I can understand the 4.5. I understand the reasons. But can I get behind it? And the answer is no. To me, the Knicks should actually be a higher favorite in this spot because the situation is that strong. Do I think the Knicks come back and win this series? Most likely not. Pacers win this in game number 6. This will be a 3-1 series going to Madison Square Garden. Knicks will win, make it 3-2. Pacers will win it in Indy in game number 6. But when I saw 4.5, I was honestly surprised because I thought it should have been higher. And so the move for me is to take the Knicks now before this gets to 5.5 because I can tell you it will be on the move. I'm Scott Seidenberg. You can hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir, ScottsOnAir. More on this game. Plus, got to get into Major League Baseball and the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. It's Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Cashing Out, I'm Scott Seidenberg with you on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Always on Twitter at ScottsOnAir as we recap the Pacers win over the New York Knicks. They take a 3-1 series lead in the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. A win and a cover, 130-121. The game goes flying over the total. As for your player props, mentioned it a little bit earlier, Jalen Brunson goes over 29.5 points, which was the most heavily bet player prop of the night. Brunson, though, made you sweat. He had 29 points through 3 quarters and doesn't score in the 4th quarter until the very end of the game, a meaningless layup, and he goes over 29.5 points, finishing with 31. He was 2 of 6 from 3-point range, so he goes under his 3-pointer prop. Karl-Anthony Towns goes under his 3-pointer prop as well. He scores 24 points. OG Anunoby goes 1 of 7 from 3-point range, but he scores 22 points. Mikal Bridges, 4 of 5 from 3-point range, 17 points. Mitchell Robinson had just 6 points for the Knicks, 7 rebounds to go along with that. Karl-Anthony Towns led the way with 12 rebounds. Josh Hart off the bench once again, although played the majority of the minutes, 12 points and 11 rebounds, just 1 assist. He was 1 of 2 from 3-point range. For the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton with a ridiculous game, 5 of 12 from 3-point range, as he has 32 points, 12 boards, and 15 assists. And at one point in the first quarter, Tyrese Halliburton had scored or assisted on, it was like 8 of the 9 possessions for the first eight of 9 possessions for the Indiana Pacers. It was incredible. He was involved in every single point that they had at some point. So, yeah, it's his second triple-double of the playoffs, 32 points, 15 assists, 12 boards. He goes over all numbers. Pascal Siakam scores 30 points on 3 of 4 from 3-point range. Aaron Nesmith with 16 points. Miles Turner with 13 points. And off the bench, 20 points for Benedict Mathurin, who had a big-time performance here. And the bulk of it came from the free throw line, 10 of 11 from the free throw line for Benedict Mathurin. That's kind of like what we talked about, how ridiculous the officiating was in this game. So many ticky-tack fouls and easy trips to the free throw line. But something to keep an eye on as the series shifts to Madison Square Garden. Does Tom Thibodeau continue to utilize the bench like he did in games 3 and 4, where you have DeLon Wright playing minutes where he had never played really before? Landry Shamet played 11 minutes in this game. Deuce McBride played 15 minutes, goes 1 of 3 from three-point range. He's really the only one that does play. Precious Achiuwa got into the game, so people got to see that he is actually on this team. He played just 2 minutes. Does Tibbs go to that bench again? Or does he go back to what had worked for the Knicks, which was sticking to his guys in his short rotation? I wonder if, with the season on the line, he tightens up the rotation a bit. So if you're looking from a prop perspective, you might have to look at some of these players and, maybe go under these role players or go over the starters. And don't be surprised if the Josh Hart coming off the bench experiment is over now after 2 games. And now it's Josh Hart back in the starting lineup. Mitchell Robinson, even though, he gets the start, but he doesn't play as much as Hart does. But you need to get out to a big start here in game number 5. And so you can't afford to have Mitchell Robinson be in minus 20 in his 19 minutes on the floor. You just can't afford that. And Josh Hart was a minus 1. So look for Hart, in my opinion. I would certainly not be surprised if Hart finds himself back in the starting lineup in game number 5. From a Pacers perspective, does Tyrese Haliburton continue to play the way that he's been playing? 31 points in game number 1, the overtime game in Madison Square Garden. Just 14 points, though, in game number 2. 3 of 10 from three-point land. Scores 20 points in an okay performance in game number 3, like an performance, and then goes absolutely off tonight. We have yet to see him put together back-to-back performances, even throughout these playoffs. Well, I guess if you want to say the last game against Cleveland was big and then game 1 against New York, so kind of those were, I guess, considered back-to-back. But within a series, we haven't seen him put together back-to-back real big performances. Game 1 against Milwaukee, really good game 2. Game 3, game 4, really good game 5. Good game number 1 against the Cavs, game 2, bad game 3. Bad game 4, great game 5, and then up and down here against the Knicks. So if Haliburton does what he does, if Haliburton does in game number 5 what he did in game number 1 and what he did tonight, Pacers win this in Madison Square Garden. But to me, the early lean is on the Knicks. I don't think this 4.5 lasts. I think this eventually gets to 5.5. This is the desperation spot of all desperation spots for the Knicks with their season on the line. And we know the zigzag is very profitable in these NBA playoffs. If all you did was just take the team that lost the prior game to then cover the next game, you are doing extremely well in these NBA playoffs. In fact, I'll give you those exact numbers. So in this playoffs, if all you did was back the teams coming off the loss to cover the spread in the following game, you are 43-25-1. That's 63.2%. Actually, it doesn't even include tonight's game. So you're 44-25-1. 64% ATS. Those are insane numbers. If all you did was play the zigzag. You bet on the team that lost the game to cover the next game. You are up $1,650 in these NBA playoffs. A $100 better. It is a really strong, really strong trend. And so you have to factor that in when it comes to the Knicks here, playing with their season on the line in game number 5. The other thing to keep an eye on is how the sportsbook will tax you early in the game, because we know that with the strong zigzag and with the desperation spot, we always see this when a team is down 0-2 and then they come home for game number 3, or just in any 0-2 situation and then game number 3, we see the tax early in the game. So the Knicks are going to be 4.5 point favorites for the game, they're going to be probably 3.5-point favorites for the first half, you got to figure. And in the first quarter, they might be 2.5-point favorites. Like, the numbers won't make sense from a mathematical standpoint of what they should be and what they prototypically would be if this was a regular season game. Like, if all you did was take the full game spread and then did the math on what the halftime should be, what the first quarter should be, you're going to get taxed at least 0.5 point, if not a full point, in this spot with the Knicks, because them playing with the zigzag and with their season on the line here in game number 5. But the Pacers, very impressive here. Offensively, continue to make shots. And the Knicks' lack of defense, if they absolutely cannot afford to play like that again, because their season is going to be over real quick. And the fans will start to turn against them coming up on Thursday at Madison Square Garden. We know the NBA playoffs are heating up, and our partner at ProfitX is offering the best odds on the playoffs, well, all playoffs long. ProfitX, what is it, you ask? It's a peer-to-peer sports exchange. It's available in 40-plus states, which means you're going to be able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans rather than against sports books. And exchanges guarantee you the best odds on average by 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds. Download ProfitX today with code VSIN and earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month. Stanley Cup playoffs, the Edmonton Oilers are 1 win away from going back to the Stanley Cup final. In fact, we are 1 win away from both the Oilers and the Panthers of having a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. Coming up next, we're going to break down game number 4 between the Stars and the Oilers. What can we expect to happen in game number 5? Plus, we have to take a look at what's going to happen here on Wednesday's action in both the NBA and the NHL. Plus, there's still some Major League Baseball games that are in progress right now, including, a team that if you placed an early bet, like a first 5 bet here on Tuesday, condolences. I'll explain coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Hit me up on Twitter at ScottsOnAir, ScottsOnAir. You can hit us all up on the network at VSIN Live. We'll get into the Major League Baseball and, yes, talk about that painful beat for you coming up next, as well as the action on the ice. Stanley Cup playoffs, Western Conference Finals, Oilers with a 3-1 series lead, and take a look at the Wednesday action, both the NHL with the Eastern Conference Finals that could be coming to a close, and the NBA's Western Conference Finals that also could be coming to a close. It's Cashing Out right here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Out here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Scott Seidenberg back here with you, cashing out on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network, as we turn our attention to the action in Major League Baseball. And boy, if you had the Marlins in the first 5 innings, I don't know what to say to you. First off, you bet on a dog, you took the plus money, okay, kudos to you. But the Marlins scored 6 runs in the top of the first inning. You had a plus money price on Marlins in the first 5. Actually, I don't even know if it was plus money because Max Meyer on the mound. Let me actually see what this closed at. Because Max Meyer definitely had the pitching advantage in this one against Stephen Kolek for the let's see. It was about plus 113. So you got a little bit of plus money with the Marlins. Max Meyer, you figure, pitching advantage over Stephen Kolek. The Marlins score 6 runs in the top of the first inning. And kudos to the Padres saying, hey, Kolek, you got to eat these innings now. We're not taking you out of the game. But Kolek settles down. He doesn't allow a run for the rest of his outing. He finishes 5 1/3 innings, 6 runs on 6 hits. So the Marlins with a 6-run lead in the top of the first. Watch the Padres score 1 in the bottom of the first, 2 in the bottom of the second, 2 in the bottom of the third, one in the bottom of the fourth to tie the game, and one in the bottom of the fifth as the Padres lead 7-6 over the Marlins in the sixth inning in San Diego. If you had Marlins first five, that is a terrible beat. You want to talk about win probabilities and where you are? You're up 6-0. And granted, that's a lot of baseball left to be played. But it was also a lot of baseball that was played for you, your team that you bet on. So your team scored 6 runs in the top of the first, didn't score for the rest of the first 5, and the opposing team scored 7 to beat you. That's a bad beat. It's a bad beat. Elsewhere, still in progress right now, Yankees with a 3-0 lead over the Angels there in Anaheim going to the bottom of the 7th. The Diamondbacks a 6-2 lead over the Pirates in the bottom of the 6th inning in Arizona. Corbin Burns got the start for Arizona, and through the first 5 innings, he looked great. Scoreless action through the first 5 innings, but he does allow a home run in the top of the 6th inning as he gives up his first 2 runs of the game. So a 6-0 lead for the Diamondbacks, now a 6-2 lead for the Diamondbacks, and they're going to the 8th inning in Seattle. It's all Mariners on top of the Nationals, 7-1. Finals from earlier, Shohei Ohtani home run number 20 as he homers in his 3rd straight game. What more can you say about this guy? There's nothing more to say about Shohei Ohtani other than we know how incredible he is. 3rd straight game with a homer as the Dodgers win 9-5 over Cleveland. Ohtani, 20 home runs now on this season as he is on one of the most historical paces we've ever seen. I saw this stat, and I'm going to try to pull it up here so we can see here. Let's see. I got to pull this up because it's one of the most bizarre stats that I saw about the pace that Ohtani is on for the runs scored. It's something that we haven't seen like in history. And what's crazy is like Ohtani's on a ridiculous pace. First player to reach 20 home runs this year. He's on pace for 60. But Aaron Judge also on a ridiculous pace this year. And so is Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, who's got 19 homers on the season now. He homered tonight. All 3 of these guys are on pace for about 60 home runs. But Ohtani has now scored, this is what it is, 58 runs scored on the season. He is on pace to score 170 runs. No player has scored 170 runs in a season since Babe Ruth scored 177 runs in 1921. Let that sink in for a moment. Ohtani is on pace to score about 170 to 175 runs right now. That's unbelievable. Babe Ruth in 1921 was the last player in baseball history to score over 170 runs in a season. And they didn't even play as many games back then. But, just an incredible season for Ohtani. As you look at the MVP markets now, it's like Ohtani versus the field, then it's Judge versus the field. Now, injuries can obviously throw things for a loop, and you have other guys that are making cases. And this might be one of those years where, honestly, these sports books, and I know that some of them do, DraftKings sometimes has this. I think we see, other books offer these odds as well, but it's like the MVP without. Like right now, Aaron Judge on FanDuel is minus 8,000 to be the American League MVP. But I would like to bet into an MVP without Judge market. So like who would finish second in the voting? Is it Bobby Witt Jr.? Is it Jose Ramirez? It's up for grabs. In the National League, Ohtani's your overwhelming favorite to win the MVP, and he hasn't even started pitching yet. Once this guy starts pitching, and let's say he comes back to form on the mound, you're not going to vote for anybody else to be the most valuable player. So what about an MVP without market? Is it Tatis? Is it Kyle Tucker? Pete Crow Armstrong, I think, is putting himself in the conversation to be the MVP. And then, guys like Corbin Carroll, even Freddie Freeman on Ohtani's team is having an MVP season. Yeah, I'd be interested in those MVP without markets. Something to keep an eye on and take a look at. Elsewhere in Major League Baseball, Cardinals a 7-4 win over the Orioles. Tigers beat the Giants 3-1. Jack Flaherty picking up the W there. Phillies blank the Braves 2-0. Ranger Suarez getting himself a victory. He is 4-0 on the season. Twins double up the Rays 2-0, snapping the Rays winning streak. And, this might be the time, and I've talked about this a lot here, when it comes to the Tampa Bay Rays. At some point, I'm going to want to live bet the under on the Tampa Bay Rays wins. Now, some of you might not be aware, but you look at the standings, look at what Tampa has done. They just had this winning streak snapped. They've had an incredible start to their season, and they went on this nice little run. They're second place in the American League East. That's not the point I'm talking about as to why I want to fade them. But they have played the most home games in Major League Baseball right now. Because of them playing outdoors now in Tampa, in Steinbrenner Field, no longer in the Dome, Major League Baseball front-loaded their schedule. They gave Tampa as many home games as they could in the early months of the season to avoid them playing at home in the 103-degree heat and mugginess that is in Tampa in the summer. And so if you look at the schedule, it's like 60 of their last 90-something games are on the road. I think it's 59 of 98 or 59 of 96. There's some crazy number. So it's like almost 60 out of 100. But it's a little less than that. So it's like more than 60% of their games. At the end of the season, it's all going to be road games for them. And so I want to fade that. We know how great home teams have been in Major League Baseball this year. This is a historic season when it comes to the win rate for home teams. The fact that we now get a Rays team that over their final 90-somewhat games of the season are going to have the majority of them on the road, 60 of them on the road, I want to fade that. And so you look at the adjusted win total on the Tampa Bay Rays, and I want to bet them under. I saw it last week. It was like 77.5. I'm curious what it is now because, and it's not updated because we're not through this schedule yet tonight, but it will be tomorrow because, and they just had their winning streak snapped, but they had gone on this long winning streak. They've won 7 out of 10 games. They're 27-27 right now. So they're on pace to win, exactly 81 games. If you see this number higher than 77.5, 78.5, 79.5, we go under on the Tampa Bay Rays. This is a fade of the Rays for the second half of the season because of the majority of the road games that they will have to play. Hey, smarter bets start with VSiN Pro, and now is the time to join. Through May 31st, you can lock in 14 months for just $199. That's 2 extra months free when you use promo code PRO at checkout. That's less than 50 cents a day for a daily email with best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 live video and replays on the VSiN Watch app, full access to VSiN.com's analytics, trends, and expert breakdowns, plus get the 2025-26 NFL betting guide when it drops this summer. This limited time offer ends May 31st. So don't miss out. Go to vsin.com/subscribe. Use promo code PRO to sign up now. That's vsin.com/subscribe. We get into the Stanley Cup playoffs coming up next. I'm Scott Seidenberg. This is Cashing Out here on VSiN.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Cashing Out, I'm Scott Seidenberg here with you on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, as both conference finals in the Stanley Cup playoffs are one win away from crowning a champion, and we are one win away each from having a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. The Edmonton Oilers took care of the Dallas Stars in game number 4 of the Western Conference Finals tonight with a 4-1 victory in Edmonton. They win both home games, and they cover the puck line in both home games. A 6-1 rout in game number 3, a 4-1 win here in game number 4. The score a little bit deceiving. This was a 2-1 game prior to 2 empty net goals being scored in the final couple of minutes. And that's the thing. With these Stanley Cup playoffs, we have seen empty net goals come into play more so than ever before, in my opinion. I have to look at the exact numbers to see, if there's been more empty netters in this postseason than others. But not only are we seeing one empty net goal at the end of these games, we're seeing multiple empty net goals at the end of these games. Because if a team's down 1, they pull the goaltender, they go down 2, they pull the goaltender again, and they wind up losing by 3. Sometimes we see the teams pull the goaltender down 3, they go down 4, they still got the goalie out. Although I think 4 is where you draw the line. At 5-1, I'm keeping the goalie in. At 4-1, I'm pulling the goalie with like 5-6 minutes left. Seeing if I can get a quick goal, get a spark for my team. Put myself within striking distance within 2 goals. But something that I've noticed here in this postseason, and it has really been a cash cow, is if you play the favorites on the alternate puck lines. Now, what does that mean? I'm not talking about how, and credit Jonathan Davis does a great job for us at vsin.com. You go read his articles. He talks about how just bet both sides minus a goal and a half because you get the favorite at usually, plus money price, plus 150 or so. And then you can get the dog at like close to plus 300, plus 250 or higher usually. Usually it's like plus 290 to plus 3 and change on the underdog, because when the underdog wins, like most of these games are decided by 2 or more goals. If you look at these playoffs, like most of the games are decided by 2 or more. But this is what's crazy, is just looking at the favorites. And the Oilers were the favorite in this game. They were the favorite in game number 3 as well. The favorites in these Stanley Cup playoffs, when they win, this is now, with tonight's game, this is now 49 wins for the favorites here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Of the 49 wins, 34 of them have covered the minus a goal and a half. So if all you did was bet the favorites, forget about the money line, because we know sometimes they're heavy money line favorites, they lose, and when you lose, you can make a profit, but it's sure. If all you did was bet the favorites on the puck line at minus 1.5, you are up over $3,500 in these playoffs. 34 wins, 15 losses on the minus a goal and a half. That's 69% winners if all you did was bet the favorites at minus a goal and a half. But I'm going to do you one further. If you took these favorites, and you could play the minus a goal and a half, and take your small, sometimes it's plus 130 if they're a heavy favorite, sometimes it's plus 150. But if you play these favorites on an alternate puck line, so instead of a minus 1.5, you bet them at minus 2.5. Get a load of this. Of the 34 puck line wins for these favorites here in the Stanley Cup playoffs, 24 have been by 3 or more goals. 24. Half of the wins by the favorites here in the Stanley Cup playoffs have been by 3 or more goals. And on average, you are getting close to, if not over, plus 300 odds on every single one of these bets. And let's just do the math here. If we have an average of plus 300 and we win 24 times, and we lose, let's see, so we have to lose 10, we lose 25 times, okay? You are up if you did a $100 bet, and that's just the easiest way for me to calculate it. Obviously, you don't have to do 100, you do whatever you want, $10, whatever. If you did $100 on every one of these bets, you are up $4,700 in these Stanley Cup playoffs. If all you did was bet the favorites in these Stanley Cup playoffs minus 2.5 goals. Yeah, minus 1.5 is awesome. Now imagine if you split your bets and you did minus 1.5 and minus 2.5. You've got 24 wins at minus 2.5. You've got 34 wins at minus 1.5. 49 wins for the favorite. 34 have been by 1 or by 2 or more goals. 24 have been by 3 or more goals. Just incredible numbers when it comes to these Stanley Cup playoffs. But now we look at this series in the Western Conference specifically. The Oilers get the 4-1 win over the Stars. Goals scored by Leon Draisaitl on the power play, his 7th of the playoffs. Corey Perry scores his 6th of the playoffs on the power play as well. And then a couple of empty netters by Kapanen and Adam Henrique. Zach Hyman did get hurt in this game. No word yet on his status for game number 5. But I would imagine, kind of like Florida played with some house money, having the lead in their series, where they chose to sit, Sam Reinhart with his injury for 2 straight games. I can see Zach Hyman not playing here in game number 5. Now, I don't know what the injury is. I don't know. He left the game and he was ruled out for the remainder of the game. It's an undisclosed injury. You know how hockey is like, right? A guy breaks his femur and they're like, he's got a lower body injury. Hockey's funny like that. A guy could get his eye poked out and they're like, he's dealing with a little bit of an upper body injury. They don't tell you what's going on. Imagine we had that in the NFL. Like in the NFL, we have to know everything about these players because we place the bets, the prop bets, the market moves so much. We have to know everything. We talk about the concussion protocol and how they have to go through every stage and practice every day. And it's like, oh, they had non-contact practice this day. They finally wore the shoulder pads this day. Now they finally, in a full walkthrough, they're able to play the next day. In hockey, it's just like, meh, lower body, meh, upper body. How long is he going to be out? I don't know. And everyone's just fine with it. We're just okay with it. And it's completely different sports, I get it, but some of these players are very important to their teams. Anyway, Zach Hyman, I don't expect him to play in game number 5. I would favor Dallas at home in game number 5. The market is favoring them just slightly. They're minus 120 favorites to win and avoid elimination and then force a game 6 back in Edmonton. And if you look at just this series in general, and let's just look at tonight's game, for example. The score says one thing, but really it wasn't as one-sided as we, would like to think it was. If we look at the performance here tonight at even strength, okay, 57 total attempts for the Edmonton Oilers to 47 for the Stars. Of those attempts, 44 for the Oilers got through. 36 got through for the Stars. As far as actual shots that went to the goal, 20 for the Oilers, 23 for the Stars. Scoring chances were 25-21 in favor of the Oilers to the Stars, and the high danger scoring chances were even at 8 apiece. And if you looked at your expected goal numbers, it was even, 2.77 to 2.9. This was an evenly played game. The difference was the Oilers cashed in on a couple of power plays, and the empty netters skewed the score. I'm going to take a look and see how this entire series has played out. But the fact that this was an even game, you throw in the Hyman injury as well, having to have the Oilers shuffle their lines. I like the Stars to avoid elimination in game number 5. Hey, VSiN fans, how would you like to play the Circa Survivor or Circa Millions contest for free this season? That's right. Winner's Circle Proxy is giving away one $1,000 free entry to each contest plus full proxy service. And get this, you're going to get paired up with a VSiN host for strategy all season long. So enter now for your chance to win. Just visit winnerscircleproxy.com/VSiNWCP. That's winnerscircleproxy.com/VSiN. That's how you enter this contest. I'm Scott Seidenberg. More cashing out next on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.